My name's Todd Zielinski. I'm the president and CEO of Athena SWC. I'm going to be walking you through today's presentation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through the content, and at the end of the presentation, I'll open up the mics for Q&A. Just wanted to let you know, too, in case you have others within the organization who'd be interested in taking a look at this content. Today's session is being recorded. That will be available. I will email you that once it's available, and I will also send you a copy of the presentation so you can share that internally, reflect, and discuss. As far as agendas for today, so a couple things we're going to go over. One, just going to give you a very quick high-level overview of us, our experience, specifically where we focus in larger OEM account sales and opportunities targeting. Going to walk you through some current situations, feedback as it pertains to manufacturing, sales, and new business development environments. And I'm going to include not only some of the trends and things that we hear and we see that would lead people to want to take a look at a process and an infrastructure like this to help them from a new account sales standpoint, but also what we're hearing and seeing as far as COVID. So pre-COVID, in the midst of COVID, and then post-COVID, what are some of the trends that we're seeing? I'm going to introduce you to our methodology that we use for our holistic infrastructure, which really is, and when I explain it, the holistic infrastructure is a combination of both inbound, outbound marketing kind of bridged and integrated together. For today's purposes, I'm really going to talk more about the inbound lead gen process and model and how we execute and structure that methodology. I'm also going to walk through, what we see are the benefits of executing a process like this, and then also how to understand your specific impact or return on investment. So I'll talk to you and open it up about how we structure and build that. And I will tell you, among other marketing and lead generation firms, those that play both in inbound and outbound, that's one of our key advantages is we've figured out a way specific to manufacturing environments to capture and really estimate and forecast return, not only from a qualified lead flow perspective, but using your historical sales data, using our marketing historical sales data, what it's really going to take to get us to an overall goal. So I'll walk you through that, and then I'll open it up for Q&A. So from Athena's perspective, for those who are not familiar with us, some of you are, some of you aren't, our whole focus is to partner with manufacturers, those that play in what I would call our more complex, highly technical, highly engineered sales environments. So whether you're capital equipment, whether you're a contract manufacturer, whether you're doing custom engineering and building to a piece product part or component, most of our customers are in the manufacturing space. And what they do is they really leverage us to execute what I'll call is more of a best practice infrastructure and approach to front end lead gen, lead generation, marketing, sales support, and infrastructure services using both inbound and outbound capabilities. So when I say infrastructure, what I typically say a best practice to that is really it's a combination of people that we give you that are experts to really drive the implementation, train the people, execute, manage to get the return from the process. It's the processes themselves, which I'm going to walk you through and talk about. And then it's the tools that we also give you to help measure, monitor, and track return on investment, lead management, sales, and prospecting data. It's our belief that, with a best practice infrastructure and process, really what we're trying to do is not only drive and increase sales revenue, but what we're really trying to do is we're trying to create an increased sales productivity for your existing sales team that really focuses them on working on opportunities that are qualified, closing them, retaining them, and growing them. So the activity that really comes around, the prospecting, the lead gen, finding the right target, educating the market, we're really trying to relieve them of that activity. And our philosophy really is to create division of labor within the sales process, meaning let salespeople do what they do best, right? So really sit back, consume the opportunities that are qualified sales ready, run with them, close them, and retain them. We want to do everything that's needed on the front end. And we even take it a step further, where with our integrated model, we will support the salesperson all the way through to win and loss. So there are parts of the sales cycle that we help them with, both administratively, follow-up wise. There are items that we see it all the way through, and I'll talk you through that. One of our main differentiators that I like to talk about is we really focus on structuring and building every program on behalf of our manufacturing clients to really build and structure towards a specific sales goal they're trying to achieve over a period of time. Most of our clients engage with us at minimum 12 months, sometimes it's 18, 24 months. Based upon their length and complexity of their sales cycle, it does take time. It does take time in their active sales cycle to close a brand new opportunity. Most of our clients have average length of sales cycles that run anywhere from 6 months to 18 plus months. That's just what it takes for them to do it. So with a process like this, it will take about 40 to 50 days to get it off the ground. And then it takes time to build and really begin to educate the market and see those opportunities flow in. And then you got the time to close those. So there is a time requirement. There's an investment that's required to do this thing right. But what we're always trying to do is combine not only your historical sales data, meaning steps in your sales cycle, conversion rates, the type of account you want, the size revenue you're looking to achieve, the length of time it takes to close, with what we know on the front end. So because we've been doing this for about 17, 18 years, I have a repository of data that says, look, if you're a capital equipment manufacturer, or you're a contract manufacturer of plastic injection molding parts, or you're a contract metal precision CNC machining shop, and looking at certain individual markets for certain type of sales opportunities and counts within the OEM, larger account type of opportunities. Here's the hours it takes. Here's the touches it takes to convert the average opportunity. That's data that we have. So what we try to do when we build a process is to make it more systematic, more sustainable, more repeatable in nature. And we really want to use a combination of our historical data and your realistic historical sales data so that we can build to a sales goal that you're looking to that makes the most sense. So for us, that's pretty key in designing any program. As far as where we focus, I kind of talked about it. This gives you a little bit of sampling of some of the industries that we play in, that we, have customers around the country. And one of the things I will tell you is when we do partner with people, we offer non-competes by industry and territory. That's pretty important to us because when we do this, our focus is to be there for the long term. So partnering up, people will usually test us between 12 and 24 months, but our goal is to be their outsourced front end sales and marketing infrastructure to support the sales and marketing team as they want to grow over time. And we have a number of customers who scale up and scale down, but almost every one of our customers, whether they're a product manufacturer or equipment, whether they're custom engineering or contract manufacturing of pieces, parts, components, almost every single one is targeting what I would say are larger, repetitive OEM program opportunities. So I'm talking, 6-figure, 7-figure, ongoing repetitive revenue type of opportunities. And they typically take a long time to close, meaning 6 to 18 plus months. And there's multiple decision makers, centers of influence that they have to touch, they have to talk to, that they have to work through the sales cycle. So it's pretty complex, almost custom each time, highly engineered speak. That's the game that we play in. And the type of stuff we go after is bigger stuff. That's what our customers are looking for. Now, why do people typically partner with us? What I always do is I like to throw this up there because this is kind of like the checklist of, hey, I'm feeling a little bit of sick. Well, what are your symptoms? Let's get to the root of the cause. So what I typically use this for is this is my checklist of symptoms of what's going on in your business that would lead you to believe that, hey, this could be a potential solution for me that I'd like to investigate. The ones that really stick out to us in the manufacturing world, almost always we'll hear, hey, we're a little flat or maybe even declining in sales growth, or we're anticipating a decline based upon market or programs or, something coming to an end. Almost always we hear, we got wonderful salespeople that are engineered focused. They're awesome when they get into a place, but they have more of an account management structure to them, skill set. The hunting stuff is not really what they want to do. That's not the fun stuff for them. Sometimes they're just not good at it or they lack that skill set. So we hear that a lot. Lack of process and structure, that just typically is kind of the overall once we go through these symptoms. One that we hear quite a bit in the manufacturing base is, I need to diversify my customer revenue base. I got too much tied into too few. More recently, in the last 24 months, what we've been hearing is there's a negative shift in my market or the demand for my types of products or services. An example of that would be, in the automotive market, where right now what we're hearing specifically, this is on the metal, stamping, plastic injection molding side, because we're dealing with supply chain issues around chip shortages for vehicles. The demand to get those out the door has shortened a bit. So what we're seeing is I can't produce finished product because I can't get the chips. Hence, my forecast is changing for the pieces, parts, components that I need for my tier one, tier twos, tier threes, in order to support the manufacturing process. And we don't know when that's going to end. And well, what we're hearing from our customers is the automotive market is asking them to hold capacity, but now they got a lot of excess capacity and they need to keep growing sales. So what they want to do is diversify. They want to switch out of that market. They want to find new markets where the demand is a little bit more continuous, repetitive, and sustainable. We do hear from a number of customers, and I would say this is specifically in the contract manufacturing, custom engineering manufacturing world, where they have some larger projects that have been going on for a long period of time that are nearing the end of their product life cycle. And they're not finding replacement programs with that existing customer, and that's creating a lot of excess capacity on the floor. So they need to find something new to replace that. They need some help with that. What I'm also hearing in this post kind of COVID time, where maybe in certain markets demand's really good, and we're seeing existing customers, I'll call them like laggard customers that don't, maybe, the price is not where it needs to be, the margin's not where it needs to be. They're kind of painful to deal with. And what customers are doing that come to us are being strategic about what they target. They're looking for something specific in the market to replace those customers with. So we hear that quite a bit. Targeting the wrong type of account. Yeah, I get leads every day. Maybe I do inbound marketing now, but the leads that come in, they're one-offs, they're smaller. They're not exactly what we're looking for. We really need to target and be more proactive about bringing in what a customer would define as the right type of opportunity. But what does that mean, and how do we find that? There are times where we do walk into places who have struck out hiring internal salespeople, contracted reps like manufacturing reps based upon the COVID market, can't get in and see people face to face. It's driving and a need to look at alternative options to just hiring more salespeople or contract salespeople, because depending upon the rates of COVID and where you are and the rules and regs around, seeing people and what people will allow. Now I can't see people face to face. I got to do it a different way. So that's one that comes up quite a bit. And then sometimes just a straight inability to track and quantify return on sales and marketing investments, whether it's inbound or digital, whether it's outbound programs, whether it's existing sales stuff. So what I typically say here is, if any of these kind of rise to, oh yeah, I'm feeling that, oh yeah, I'm struggling a bit with that, what I'm about to present may be a potential solution for you to consider to help you out. The COVID reality, this continual roller coaster that we're on with the COVID pandemic. 24 plus months into it, and we're still talking about the ups and downs of this thing. So what are we hearing? Well, one of the things that we've noticed right away was companies shifting focus to evaluate alternative options to just hiring more salespeople. Looking to really research more what I'll call our virtual options to connect with prospects, educate the market, and kind of fill that pipeline. And that kind of coincides with what I just talked about with, sales reps, traditional sales models, contracted reps, where I can't see people face to face. I can't get to a trade show. I can't do a golf outing. I can't go out and even grab lunch sometimes with people. We have this distance physically to connect. And what we're hearing from manufacturers are, our salespeople, they're not, they're not always familiar with that. Now I got to sell virtually. Now I got to sell online. Now I got to create a whole different mechanism to connect with people. And we're looking for alternatives to help us with that, because the pipeline needs to be continuously filled. We need to continue to build that pipeline. So this is real, both within the pandemic and post-pandemic. Supply chain issue. I'm sure all you guys are dealing with supply chain. My customers, everything from material to labor shortages. I mentioned the automotive chip shortages in the market and the disruptions that causes to business down the chain, as well as, the end buyer or customer. So these things are real. And people are evaluating, how do we get around this? One of the most common things, I was just at a conference in Indianapolis for plastic processors, and the common thing I heard was, if I could find more qualified people, if I could get a machine in here faster than I can do now, I could probably add another 20% to sales based upon the existing demand I have from my current customers and people just coming to me looking for additional business. But I'm struggling here. I'm struggling with finding good people. In certain cases, I'm struggling with getting the material in a timely fashion. It's pushing out my lead times, and the material that I am getting, I got to pay X% more for it, which means I got to pass that price on to the customer, and they're not real happy about it. So it's disrupting my sales cycles. So these things are real. These things are real that are going on out there that are causing people to look at alternatives. I remember early in the pandemic, based upon whether my business was considered essential or the people I sell to was essential, I may see a dip and a continuing dip, in overall revenue. A perfect example of that was if a lot of my business was tied to hospitality or certain parts of the aerospace and airline industry, there was a huge decline. I mean, now that's back on track. There's certain parts of it that are back on track, but these kind of things are impacting demand for our services and the focus of where we want to play the game. Marketing departments that relied upon trade shows and events, they felt the pain. I can't do those anymore. So what am I going to do? I need to find another way. Here's one key piece of data that I thought was really, really important was Forrester came out in 2021 that said almost 70% of industrial buyers prefer to do research online before they do anything else in investigating a potential new vendor, product, or service. So we know people are online. We know people are searching. How do we capture that? How do we capture that in a more virtual sense? And then, customers that are familiar with SEO or using inbound capabilities, what we're seeing is, okay, the quantity's there, but is the quality there? And that's the one main thing we always heard. I'm dealing with these leads that are coming in, but, if I get 12 or 15 opportunities that come in, only, maybe 1, 2, or 3 are really in the wheelhouse. What's going on with all the rest of these, where I get competitors from overseas and I get people trying to sell me something, or one-offs that are not big enough. They don't fit the larger OEM target market that we want to go after for larger account sales. So these things are driving people to find alternatives to what they're currently doing. So this slide here is probably the easiest depiction that I could share with you regarding our holistic process. And I will tell you, really includes all of these things, and a little bit different than other vendors and providers of lead gen marketing and sales support services. A lot of times you will run into folks who'll say, we'll kind of piecemeal and give you what you want, and maybe do this one-off service and this one. We don't do it that way. What we find is there is a process holistically that includes all these elements that really to us is a best practice approach to doing it right. And it takes time. It's not an overnight success. It takes time to set it up. It takes time to process, improve, tighten, and get the results. And then it takes time for the sales team to obtain those opportunities and run through them and close them. So it's a commitment. It's a commitment up front of time to do it right and to the best practice approach. But our feeling is if we keep to the process, we don't break process, we stick to what we know works best. And whether there are elements in what I'm going to share with you that you do, that we do, whether we do all of it, whether you come in and do part of it, whether there's another partner that we integrate and collaborate with to make this work, the focus for us is to do it right and to execute the process holistically. And a best practice in our mind includes all these specific things that we're going to execute upon. Now, what I'm going to talk to you about today is more the inbound process and philosophy. Now, we have an outbound marketing and methodology that we sell as a total integrated solution. And I have a different presentation that kind of includes that. But what we're going to talk about today is more the inbound approach and what we do and how we structure it and how we execute it and kind of the best practice around that. So I'm going to jump into that. So how does the process work at Athena for how we roll this out, design, implement, so on and so forth? So the first thing is anytime we structure and build a program, and some of you are familiar with this, some of you are not, the first thing is it needs to be scoped to the results, the flow, the return specifically that you're looking for. So there's a process up front that we utilize where we give you something called our scope and approach questionnaire, which is about 2 pages, key questions about the business, your target markets, your sales, historical sales data, conversion, and your sales cycle steps, the type of accounts you're looking for, your capabilities, really kind of gets into what you're doing within the existing sales and marketing infrastructure, what's working, what's not, where do you want to go with this whole thing. And our real focus there is to obtain and understand that data, have some clarification and back and forth with you. And then what we do is we sit down with our team that focuses specifically in that manufacturing industry segment. We look at our historical data. Like I said, we've been around for 17, 18 years. We look at that historical sales data. And then what we do is we structure programs to meet the specific sales goal using your historical sales data conversion steps, and then using ours as to what it takes you there. So it's a mathematical formula that we utilize and we process and we structure around in order to get you to the goal. And then what we do is we offer options. So we'll offer you options on, here's the goal you're trying to achieve. Here's what it looks like if you go less. Here's what it looks like if you go lower or higher. The way that we charge for it's pretty simple. It's a monthly fee. You have the ability to walk away from the monthly fee whenever you want with a 60-day written notice without cause. I will tell you, though, when we do go into this, I'm pretty clear with people that if you're not willing to give it the 12 to 18 months to start, don't do it because you'll be disappointed. If you think you're going to do this thing in 4 to 6 months or something, don't do it. Wait till you are ready to do it because it's going to take time. It's going to take us about 45, 50 days to get it off the ground. Which I'm going to walk you through shortly. It's going to take time to educate the market. Then it takes time to work your opportunities through the sales cycle. So our suggestion there is, be prepared that that's what it's going to take. So that's basically how we structure the pricing, how we build it. Now, how do we roll the process out? So there are 3 key phases to what we do, all right? And the first is what we call acquisition, development, design, training. This is the 45 to 50-day development cycle, which I'm going to walk you through. Now, once we get that up and running, then it's time to begin to pull the opportunities in from an inbound perspective. So I'm going to walk you through, what do we do from an SEO perspective? What do we do in looking at your website and getting it SEO enabled? What do we do once the leads come in? How are they followed up? How are they screened? How are they qualified? How are they handed off to sales? And then how do we monitor the progress of those opportunities? How do we process, improve, listen to the market? How do we tighten and refine the effort? I'm going to talk to you about that. And then obviously the last part is, throughput and return, how we measure, monitoring, tracking to the overall goals that we set each week, each month, each quarter. How are we tracking to those goals to make sure that we're getting the result that we want? And not only from qualified lead flow, but how are they moving through your sales cycle? How are they converting historically? What are we closing? Why are we closing? And what's the dollar amount? What are we losing? Why are we losing? And what's the dollar amount associated with that? And how do we process, improve to get a better result? Typically, how we start and kick this thing off is there's a kickoff meeting. So once we develop and design a program, the next level in the sales cycle is, okay, now let's present the findings, the pricing options, the return on investment estimates, and then let's have you do a virtual tour. So what we typically like to do with my partner, Chris Mays, he's director of operations, he's in charge of implementation, client success, and retention. He would spend time with you walking through what does it look like to partner with us through each phase, each section of what we execute to just really get you familiar. He shares things like examples of sites that we build, example of marketing materials, examples of how do we follow up with a lead to qualify and convert. What does a pipeline look like utilizing CRM and marketing automation tools? So he gives you a good idea of what it looks like to partner. From there, typically what happens is references, and then we walk into what we call our engagement agreement. So the engagement agreement really is the contract. It's all the legals. That's typically kind of the tipping point for, okay, let's solidify a program and roll out. From there, what happens is the sales team hands off the account to our operations and account management team. And what they're going to do is get you ready for a kickoff meeting. Okay. So prior to the kickoff meeting, and usually lead time right now is about, I'd say from today is about 4 weeks is our lead time. We're right now actively booking like end of February into March. As far as the team that we assign is the right team for you, meaning they have the industry background experience and it's a good match process-wise. But usually what will happen is you get a little bit of homework for what a kickoff meeting looks like. There'll be a call to introduce the team, to prep you and get you ready for what you need to prepare to the kickoff meeting for. And then scheduling of a date. Now, with COVID, depending upon where you are, your comfortability restrictions, we've been doing them on site and we've been doing them virtually like this. So it's really up to you. I mean, our preference always is to be on site because part of the kickoff meeting is we want to walk the floor. We want to touch and feel the manufacturing process. If we can't do that, we'll come at another date. And during that time, we'll do a virtual tour where someone will FaceTime or they'll WebEx like this or MS Teams meeting, walk us through the floor so we can touch and feel the production process. From there, what we're going to do is once we get into a kickoff meeting, just kind of walk you through the agenda. First thing is we're going to introduce your team. So your team is going to include Chris Mays, who will also always be available to you, our director of operations. He's our resident subject matter expert. So he always participates in the kickoffs, and he's always available for quarterly meetings and pipeline meetings. You also have a dedicated account manager. Their job is to implement, execute the process, manage, train the people, and they're really there to get from day to day, get the results, return, and impact that you're looking for. That's your go-to internal champion at Athena. On their team, you'll have access to content writer, graphic designer. They will build content pieces, collateral, whatever's needed, both electronic, hard copy, digital. They'll build whatever's within the scope of the program that's needed. You also have access to what we call senior marketing associates and marketing associates. Their primary role is screening and qualifying leads. They'll be reaching out, they'll be talking with opportunities on your behalf, they'll be qualifying, and they'll be scheduling that first step of the sales cycle on behalf of the sales team, only when it's sales ready, okay? So they'll be working directly with them for that. We also have, you'll have access to web experts, website designers, SEO experts in enablement. So your team is really going to consist of about 4 to 6 individuals that'll be dedicated to the account to roll out the program. During the kickoff, what we're going to ask to is roles and champions on your team as far as who approves, who revises anything, who's going to take a look at the leads, who's going to give us the okay on content, who's going to help us training our people, so on and so forth. From there, what we're going to do is roll out 2 different lead schedules. The first lead schedule is what needs to happen over the next 45, 50 days to get this thing off the ground. Okay, so it'll be a bulleted list of items of what we're responsible to do, what you're responsible to do. What you'll typically notice about 90 to 95% of that checklist item, we're driving, implementing, and leading. What we really need from you is feedback, insight, your experience, revisions, approval, some training. That's the component that we really need from you. From there, the second lead schedule is now that we're executing our process, what can you expect each month at a given date? So how many prospects or inbound lead submissions do we anticipate will come in starting in which month? How many do we anticipate we will qualify and convert to sales ready leads? How do those move through the sales cycle? You're going to get an idea of what all that looks like with the rollout of our process. Then what we typically like to do is have you present to us. So we want to see your pitch. We want you to walk through typically a PowerPoint. You can walk through your website, but just walk us through as we're a prospect. Who are you? What do you do? The value you provide, the industries you play in, your current customers. Why do people typically come to you? Most important to us, outside of like capabilities and services and requirements, what's your value add and differentiation in the market? We want to get a repository of any list or targets you're working on now. We want to get a repository and review your website. So we'll do a website assessment. If you are doing any SEO, social media efforts, we want to take a look at what you're doing, who does that, how it's structured, what kind of return you're getting from that. If you're using anything like CRM or marketing and automation tools, we want to dive into that and see what you're using, because part of our solution is if you don't have those things in place, we are going to give you those as part of the rollout of our process. It's required for tracking, management, and really processing leads and sales pipeline activity and win-loss data. From there, what we're going to do is walk the floor, touch and feel the process from a production standpoint, review any sales and marketing collateral and content pieces you have, both hard copy and electronic. We just want to get a feel for what you're doing now. From there, it's time to roll it out. So the first thing is we need to have a central repository and database in order to work from. So some of our customers, they already have CRM and marketing automation tools in place and they want us to work inside it. We can absolutely do that. That's not an issue at all. Other customers may say, well, I don't really have those things. can you give them to us? The answer is yes. So we are a platinum reseller of a solution called Pipedrive CRM. Very cost effective, very easy to use. I think they charge 40 or 50 bucks per user per month. We help you set it up. We help onboard. We can train you. It's mobile friendly. It's software as a service. So we set that up and then we work inside it and manage it. If you have something like Salesforce, HubSpot, something like that, we're very familiar with those. We can work inside those as well. We also give you a marketing automation tool because we have to have a way to automate, track, measure, email blasts, build landing pages, push out social media content, manage lists. So the tool we use is called VBout. It's built specifically for B2B industrial types of manufacturing environments. We give you that. Again, if you have your own HubSpot, Pardot, anything like that, we can play inside what you have. One of the key items that we have to do is really understand the target market profile and really get inside what we call a buyer persona. Buyer persona is really the definition of who is buying your product and what are they thinking about, what's their journey that they take to evaluate, get educated, research, and eventually move to want to get active with a vendor on a product or a service and then potentially buy. So there's a process that we take you through to define what you see as your buyer persona. There's research that we have to do in the market to understand these buyers, these decision makers specific to your industry. And then what's key to that is we need to build content and push that out on a repetitive basis that's really focused and based upon that buyer persona and that industry. So we use a combination of the following from an inbound perspective in order to continuously fill the pipeline with these right type of opportunities. The first thing is the assessment of your website. Okay, so we have to take a look, and it doesn't cost anything to do that. We take a look at it, and we can get an idea right away of what you're using as far as your content management solution, what kind of domain authority that you have, which is important to SEO, what kind of content you have structured for keywords, that kind of thing. And all that stuff is important because we can work with an existing site now if it meets certain requirements. You don't have to create a whole new site to do SEO and inbound marketing properly. There are some sites that they just don't have the requirements, no matter what we do, to get you there in order to convert opportunities. So what we like to do is build something called a launchpad website. Now, what's a launchpad website? Different from maybe an inbound or website firm that'll come to you and say, we need to build a brand new website, and it's going to take the next 6 months to get you there to do that. We don't think it needs that time and effort and expense to do it. So what we typically launch is a 6 to 8 page site that gets you off the ground quickly and very cost effectively. For those that build websites that cost on average somewhere between $15,000 and $25,000, we'll build it for like $5,000 or $6,000, and you will get a very good website quickly that's ready to go and SEO enabled, and the structure is right, and the keywords are built specifically for the buyer persona that we understand is the right type of decision maker and sentiment that you want looking at your site. The other thing that we utilize is something called a long tail marketing strategy and SEO strategy. So there are SEO strategies where you can try and rank for things like industrial furnaces, or you're trying to rank for things like precision metal manufacturing. What we're trying to do is be specific about the type of account that you want. So a long tail strategy really has to do with a longer keyword and building the site with content and other elements that are structured to bring in that type of quality opportunity for the right type of opportunity that you're looking to sell. So it's the difference between saying, and I'm only saying this because I know the guys at Abbott Furnace, let's find people who want to buy industrial furnaces versus saying, I want people that are going to buy thermal processing industrial furnaces specifically for electronic battery components or electronic battery product applications in the automotive market. That's different. So that's a tougher road. It takes longer. You get less leads, but the leads you get are highly, highly qualified. And I will tell you that it takes a lot of content. It takes an ongoing process tweaking and improvement. It takes making sure that you're ranking in your domain authority, which is how basically Google interprets the value of the content to your keywords to match up with the buyers who are searching. And I would tell you, most sites that we run into when we start are probably somewhere between a 5 to 10 out of 100 domain authority. Our goal is to try to push you to like 25 to 40 plus. That's what gets you ranked higher on each page. The other thing that's really important for us is to make sure that there are relevant backlinks that connect to your industries and where the industries that you're targeting and where the backlinks, where your buyers are searching for your type of product and service. So backlink strategy is a good one. Usually has about 100 backlinks built into your website, meaning I'm connected to an industry group where my buyers are at, and they're connected back to me, and people are able to come back and forth and be able to see that content because it's relevant to the buyer and the decision maker. Google reads that as part of their formulation, and it jump starts and pushes you up on a page. So that's just a little bit for how our strategy is just a little bit different. We also provide social media marketing, and we do that through platforms we feel are more industrial buyer focused. So things like LinkedIn, a little bit of Facebook, a little bit of Instagram and Twitter. We do all the outbound email marketing, so we'll design that. We'll have links. We can track who opens, when they open, how often, how frequent. And then we add an element called sales coordination and what we call lead follow-up and conversion. Now, this is where our key differentiator is versus everyone else. A lot of people will come in and they will do an SEO strategy. They'll do an inbound marketing strategy. But what they say is, okay, these leads come in. Now throw them over the fence to your salespeople and have them chase them. To me, a lead submission still isn't a qualified lead. It's qualified when it meets certain criteria in which could be triggered that we know there's an active opportunity, it meets a certain level, price, capability, quantity, material selection, time frame, the decision-making authority, those things are met. So what we do that's differently than others is those leads get submitted, they come in, the salespeople and the marketing team still doesn't see them. They come directly to our inbound follow-up group. They follow up within minutes. They qualify, they educate, and when it does meet a certain qualification criteria standard, they will book the first step in the sales cycle on your behalf. So we walk it all the way through to conversion. So, if you have 10 lead submissions, we will qualify all those. We will report back to you at the end of every month. Here's where they sit. 5 of those are nurture or future interest opportunities, meaning there's some interest, but it's further out, and here's what it is. 3 of those are hot qualified opportunities. We book dates and times for you to speak with them. You know exactly what the opportunity is. A date and a time has been booked. You're going to follow up and get into the active sales cycle. 2 of them are work in process. We're still following up, trying to get conversion. This happens each and every month. So sales no longer has to have that front end grunt activity of following up. They just sit back and wait till the leads are qualified. And then what we do is we look at the leads coming in, we rank them and score them, and we give the feedback to our web expert to say, here's the ones that were good. Here's the stuff that's not good. We need to re-engineer and process improve. We're getting leads that are coming in that are too small. They only want one-off solutions. They're not a good fit. We need to tweak something. So it's an ongoing process improvement. Also, we will monitor and help with RFP, RFQ quote follow-up. So once a lead gets handed off, we are going to meet and talk with the rep every month. We'll hold pipeline meetings, and we want to know how that lead's moving through. As they quote and follow up, we want to track what's been quoted, the dollar amount, what's the probability to win, what's the overall opportunity to win this business, and what's the total value of the relationship. And we will monitor that either in our CRM or your CRM, and we report that back to sales management so we can see how leads are converting and moving through. Also within the sales cycle, if you are finding leads aren't getting back to you, leads are stalling, they're not getting you what you need, someone's gone dark on you or ghosted you, you can kick that back to us. Tell us what you want as far as the next step, and we will rock and roll and run through that. We will make sure a lead that is stalling on you, we will get an answer to. We will continue to follow up over the phone, over email, and we will move it along. Future interest. There are some leads that are going to come back to us, and they're going to say, you know what, I was curious to learn about what you do. I got an idea. Yes, we buy this kind of stuff. I don't have anything immediately, but I'm thinking about making a purchase in the next 6 months when we do our budget. So what we'll do is we'll hard qualify that, and we'll enter that prospect into a process called nurturing the relationship. So nurturing basically is we've qualified it, they're not ready to move yet, but over the next 6 months, we are going to provide them with information and content that's helpful and relevant to their evaluation decision-making process. We will build the content. We will send it out once a month. When the 6 months is up, our CRM or your CRM system will have an alert. We'll follow up, requalify, and strike to move that into the first step of the sales process. So they're leads that take a little bit longer, but if you execute that nurturing process effectively, we found anywhere between 20 to 30% of future interest leads will convert into future qualified leads, anywhere from 3 up to 12 months at a, from a cycle time. So it's just a sub process where a lead responds to us, where we follow up and make sure it doesn't slip through the cracks and stay in front of them to keep them educated and keep them close in order to get future conversion. Sales process management, every month we'll be sitting down reviewing the pipeline. Every week you'll get a report says here's what's coming in inbound, here's what we're following up with that's active, here's what we've converted, here are our goals and how we're doing against the goals. And then of those opportunities that are hard qualified and that are in an active sales cycle, we will reach out to the sales team and get updates so we can see how each opportunity is moving along. So that'll be visible, we'll manage it, and we'll be able to see from leads from cold all the way to win-loss, and then analyze that data. So remember, when we initially develop a proposal, we have specific goals that we're trying to meet, estimates of conversion, and we're going to track that all the way through. And there are certain times we'll say, well, for all the inbound leads that we're getting in conversion, of those, only 30% are moving to our RFQ stage, where we thought 50 to 60% were. So why is that? So we'll dive back into that data. We'll find out, is the lead's not as qualified? Is there something we need to tweak on the front end? Did we misunderstand, or were we too aggressive in the 50 to 60%, and maybe 30 to 40% is our reality? Is there something we can do in the sales cycle step to tighten up in order to get better conversion? What is it? So we're going to look at all that. We're going to tighten and process improve the entire thing through. Market intelligence. So one of the key items is just listening to the prospects, listening and looking at data and trends and analytics as far as the leads that are coming in. Where are the trends coming from? Is it a certain industry? Is it a certain contact level? Are they submitting based upon a certain product, a capability, a service requirement? And is there a way to refocus the effort to get more of that, to capture that? Just as important, what are we winning? Why are we winning? What's the dollar amount? How do we get more of that? Why are we losing? Is it a certain type of industry, size company, contact level? Is it a certain capability we have where we're not competitive in the market? So every week you get reports. Every month we sit down and review this data. And on a quarterly basis, we look at 3 months worth of rolling data, both inbound, conversion-wise, pipeline-wise, market intelligence. We're going to feed back. What are we hearing in the market? And then tighten and make suggestions going forward. As I mentioned, we give you an expert team to execute the whole thing from front to end. We can give you software or use yours and play inside it for visibility tracking and management. That's all included in what we do. And this thing churns and burns each and every month, highly measurable, highly repeatable. We're building to whatever flow of qualified lead requirements and closures you're looking for. So you can come to us and say, Todd, I want 1 lead a month. That's all I can handle. You could come to us and say, I want 5 to 10. I want 30. It could be built for whatever you want. Through the process of inbound and social media and pushing out emails, we're educating, creating awareness in the market, and sometimes cracking that door regarding who you are, what you do in the value price. That's just a beginning point, right? Nurturing is building relationships and conversion for the future. We're constantly process improving, tightening, and looking at data, and we're listening to the market to refine and process improve. So this process churns and burns each and every month. We quantify, we track, we review, and it's all visible to you, the customer. You can see it's totally integrated into what you're doing now. All right. One of the other items I just wanted to highlight for you is what we call sales coordination. To me, this is really like a low-hanging fruit service that we include. So one of the things we like to do is we like to go back to the repository of RFP, RFQ database that you have. Wins, losses, people that went dark, people that are active but no one's responding to you. And what we do each and every month is we take a percentage of those old RFPs, RFQs, and we look to revive, or we look to find out why they're stalling. So we'll follow up on a consistent basis. We will convert and look to educate those opportunities. We'll find new contacts. If we lost, we'll go back, find out why we lost. look to find other opportunities that we can quote on, look to find other contacts we could talk to, maybe that are more specific to our product, manufacturing capability, service. It's a lot of low-hanging fruit in those past databases to revive, rekindle, or find out why we lost, and or find out why it stalled, and figure out a way to rekindle that relationship. So just as an example, we had a contract manufacturer, metal stamper out in the New York City area, that had a number of quotes where the president was handling all of them. And what this gentleman would do is, if they were hotter, he'd spend more attention to them, send out the quote, email, and maybe place a phone call to see if he can get it going. The rest of them, he would quote it, and if they got back, great. If not, he'd just mark it as lost. So there wasn't really like a tight process to really understand, okay, where did all these sit? One of them happened to be an opportunity for a large project. It was about $150,000 worth of work. And they had sent out the quote just recently and haven't heard back. And it was like 2 to 3 weeks. And basically the president said, I sent 2 or 3 emails, never heard back. Go ahead and take a crack at it. So we began to follow up, found out the person that he submitted to is no longer there, took another job. There's a new person in place, connected with the new person, explained the situation, who we were working with, what it was about. There happened to be a folder in this person's inbox that was for this previous purchasing manager. Opened up, found the quote, and said, okay, I can't open the quote. That job is still open. We're still looking for help with that. But the actual PDF is damaged. Can you resend it for this? We did that. And then what happened was, not only did we get an opportunity for that one, but there were 2 others. So the account actually went from 150,000 potential to just under 400,000. Now we got the right person, and then we booked a follow-up meeting to review the quotes and tour the floor. So that went active just for follow-up and digging in and spending some time. Now, what you don't see on the back end is, how many calls did it take to find that person? Probably 15 to 20. Probably took 15 to 20 calls to get in there, navigate around, get a hold of the person, and get it moving. But this is a nice low-hanging fruit service we like to combine with the inbound approach that really gets after some immediate stuff to close. So the best practice for us, what we look at, is to try to create these levers, right, in a holistic infrastructure that really kind of turns on and off all these different capabilities. So you'll see website SEO, try to see, we have to have some website visitor tracking, analyze who's coming in. With our system that we use, we can reverse engineer, read IP addresses, find an actual company, and then where they're located, and then go after them to get some conversion. We use something called Lead Booster, which is a virtual chatbot that we put on your website that's automated, that 24/7 will have Q&A and recommend some answers. And what it does is it takes them through a string of Q&A that gets them to the page they want, along the way obtaining their name, and their contact information. So we actually create leads 24/7. You'll see we use LinkedIn and other social media platforms. We also do outbound key account target marketing. That's not kind of what we focused on here today, but we have a process that combines for that. The bottom line is, we're trying to find all these different levers and get the best practice in order to get things through your sales funnel to get new customers and the revenue you're looking for. And at times, some of those levers are turned on full, some of them they're turned halfway, some of them are turned off because they're not relevant to what you're doing, but that's the goal. So what we typically find as far as benefits of a process like this, and really, the ability to track, measure, and quantify results, that's key. Because what I can't measure and what I can't track, how do I improve? How do I understand if it's working or not? In instances where you're talking inbound, okay, usually inbound leads are much hotter. They're moving, they're looking when they submit to you. There's something going on. So what we typically see is a compression in sales cycle. And because we're front-ending, qualifying everything, so now you're dealing with something that's a higher sales-ready opportunity. We see conversion rate gains. Why? Because typically in the average traditional sales cycle, you have stuff in there that some of it's qualified, some of it's kind of middle of the road, and some of it's just not good. It's just suspecting. And that stuff kind of plays out into the impact of the sales conversion rate. So you're dealing with highly qualified stuff. Dedicated process to execute and convert these opportunities in a continuous way. Yeah, that's a big deal. It's a big deal to have a process, a structure, a dedicated team that you can ramp up and ramp down. Increase sales rep productivity. Get them focused on what they do best. Obtain a good opportunity, work it, close it, retain it. That's what they do best. So create some division of labor. within the sales process. Visibility to the pipeline tracking and buying process, and then understanding and mitigating the risk around losing or aging of RFPs, RFQs. We're there to help you with that. We're there to touch it. Things stall if we're not hearing back. We're on top of it. If you don't have time to get something, we'll help you take that over. I think the biggest thing with our process is the ability to convert what I would call our more these longer term opportunities that just take longer using our proven process. A lot of the customers we play, larger OEM, repetitive accounts, take lots of time to convert. This process keeps you in front of these people. It keeps moving along, keeps the touches, and it produces that conversion down the road. Whether someone's ready today or they're not going to be ready for 6 to 12 months, you got the ability to do that. And then, the ability to grow and really maximize your online presence with our tools, our capabilities, and our process. One of the things we had pointed out earlier in the presentation was almost 70% of industrial buyers are looking and researching people online. Well, let's get that. Let's get to that capability, that channel, so we can maximize the opportunities from that perspective. So how do you understand the impact for your business? Pretty simple. With us, the process, if you take a look and you like what you saw and you're curious, hey, what would this cost me? What's the impact? What's my return? How would it be structured? This is kind of our process for that. So, the first thing is we just want to review and assess the current site. It doesn't cost you anything to do that. We just take a look at it. We give you some feedback immediately on things like domain authority and SERP reports and so on. And so we get an idea of, can we work within the website, or do we need to start with a Launchpad website? I typically provide something called our scope and approach questionnaire. It's 2 pages of key questions about your business environment, your target market, your capabilities, your value prop, your differentiation, your sales cycle and conversion rates. You fill that out. I then look at it. We walk through it together, tighten up. I ask some clarifying questions. And then what we do is we build to the desired sales goals you have. And then when I build a proposal, usually what we'll do is we'll have you do a virtual tour. I talked about that, so you can get a feel for what it looks like to partner with us, see examples of other manufacturers within your industry that we've done work with, and see examples of our work. And then walk you through the proposal. That's going to include a current and future sales reality. Where do you want to go? The program will be designed specifically for your business, your target markets, and the sales return. I'll give you options. So you'll have a couple different options for qualified lead flow, for pricing, and then I give you an idea of 3-year return on investment estimates. So that's everything. What I'll do is I'll open this up for questions. Anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer anything you have as it pertains to the proposal or to the process and presentation accordingly. So
I got a question, Todd.
Sure.
It's related to sending emails, marketing emails out.
Yeah.
In your opinion, is there a specific cadence that should happen at? How many is too many? How many is not enough?
Well, there's a couple things. It depends upon the buyer, the industry, at what level you're at. You want to have enough where you're building education, repetitive, you're tracking, what their behavior is in reviewing email and content. I also think there's a healthy combination of just what I would call our more marketing-based emails that are educational in nature, that are done through an email blasting system. And then there's more one-to-one personal, kind of one-off that my people do. That, once we learn a little bit more, we kind of move away from that, and it's more situational in nature. So I can tell you from a sales perspective, when we're following up with someone, usually it's in every 7 to 10 days on a personal email, because we're following up to try to see where we're at. From an email blasting standpoint, depending upon what we're doing, definitely no less than once a month. Sometimes that might be required twice a month. I wouldn't barrage people weekly. I think you're going to turn people off that way. So you have to find that healthy balance. And sometimes people will tell you, they're going to let you know, like, when you're nurturing someone, they're going to tell you, well, how often are you going to send this? What are you going to send? Here's what I'd like to see. And can you send it no more than once a month? They'll tell you. And then the important part is adhering to that. So I think, once we understand certain industries are more open and other industries are a bit more closed, and you got to be careful of that. So it's a delicate balance. I don't think there's like a right or wrong answer to that. I think you feel it out, and then you see what the responses are to that. So
Your website development services or your website help, would that be through a third party or would that be directly through your company?
So it's an integrated partnership with a company called Engage Content out of Cleveland, Ohio, that specifically focuses on manufacturing and industrial environments. They're really kind of integrated and built into our team. Took me about 3 years to find the right partner to do it right. But yeah, they are a third party, but they're integrated into our process. They're a preferred partner. We have a contract in place that integrates our efforts together. So the direction all comes from us. We lead and implement it. They just have team members that help as far as execution, and it's basically they're just part of the team that we're on.
Thank you.
You bet. Other questions and comments I can answer for? I know we're at 12 o'clock, so I want to be careful not to go over too long in case you guys have other things to get to. But there is a question here on the supplier side in rubber and plastics industry. We have all the same issues you discussed with supply chain lead times and long sales. Do you see your services working for supplier versus the end user manufacturer? So I would tell you, and that's from John. John, most of our customers are on the end user manufacturing side, but here's the deal. The process I just shared and explained, we use that at Athena to drum up our own opportunities. 95% of my leads come from our own process that we do internally. I do have a customer too that is supplier side, where we're targeting OEMs or manufacturers. So I've seen it work in both. I mean, the common side that comes to us is typically the manufacturer, but I've seen it work on both sides. And what I would suggest is if you want to go into more detail on that, I'm going to send everyone a follow-up email, but John specifically, just reply back to the email. You'd like to have a short conversation to talk that through further. I'd be happy to explain that in further detail for you. But yes, it works on both sides. Other questions, comment, anything I can answer for you guys? Okay. Well, on behalf of Athena, thanks so much for attending today's webcast. Like I said, I will make sure to get everyone the recording of the webcast. I will also send you a copy of the PowerPoint that you can share internally. And if anyone is interested in going a little deeper and understanding more about what this could look like or apply to you, just let me know, and we can get that process rolling. But thanks, everyone, for attending. Thanks for your feedback. I hope it was helpful and insightful. Greatly appreciate it.